Okay, here we are with sort 9, more suffixes. And here we've got airy, uri, and ori. So there are spellings and sounds. And this is part of Words Their Way, Derivational Relations, the blue book. And we're just going to get into the meanings of these words. Not all of them, but some of them. And let's just get into it right away. Here we go. And let's start out with the ARY, airy words. And we'll start with one you may know, which is ordinary, and that means common or usual or normal. If you have an ordinary day, nothing crazy happens. It's just a normal, regular day. Ordinary. Next, we have the military. And the military are the people who go to war or protect a country, armed forces or soldiers. And we can even break it down further. There's different parts of the military. And it's just a chance to build up your knowledge a little bit more, in case you're reading a book about history and you come across these terms. But do you know the difference between the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, or the Coast Guard? This is kind of an American list, but most countries have this. What do those 5 different things do? And they're defined by where they fight. So an army fights on the land, the Navy fights on the sea with ships and submarines, the Air Force would fight in the sky, the Marines would do all 3 of those kind of together, especially the land and the sea for the Marines. And the Coast Guard protects the coast. Of course, they're guarding the coast of a country. So these are called 5 branches of the military. And again, in the future, if you're learning history or things, those are going to be important terms to know. So next word from your list, which you might know, the word necessary means you need to do it or have it. And the key word there is need, and you can see they start to be with the same couple of letters. So on a camping trip, a tent would be necessary, or your teacher might say, doing your homework is necessary. So that's necessary. Next up, another word you might know, but we'll cover it just in case. A secretary is an office worker who helps with paperwork or phone calls or someone's schedules or emails, things like that. So for example, in our school, our principal has a secretary, and that secretary helps the principal out with all of these things because she's very busy, and it just helps make her job easier. So that is a secretary. And let's do one more from this category of ARY, which is stationary, and that means not moving or not going anywhere. Probably the most common use of this one would be like a stationary bike. It's a bike where you're pedaling, but you're not moving. You're just doing it for exercise. And a quick note, we'll get to this later. There's another type of stationary. It's a homophone, but we'll cover that in a little bit. So now, why don't we take a look at just a couple ERY words. And we will start with scenery, which has 2 meanings. And one meaning is scenery is the natural countryside, so mountains, fields, trees, rivers, kind of the beautiful things people like to go see in nature. You say, oh, we're going there for the scenery, especially if we live in the city. You like the scenery of nature. But it's also the decorations for a play, so like the backgrounds you would paint if you're acting on stage to show where you are, what is this scenery, you would create that. Now just 2 more words from this ERY section, and one of them you should know if you look at the words. The base word here, of course, is machine, and machinery is just a group of machines, or it could also be parts. of a machine. And then the last word from this group, grocery. And a grocery is a store that sells food and household items. And these ERY words are all pretty connected to their base word. A grocer is basically an owner of a store that sells food and household items. And of course, scene, if you have scenes in a play, that's quite connected to that word as well. And let me just pop in some photos real quick just to reinforce these. So you've got the two types of scenery, decorations for a play or nature. You've got some machinery. Obviously there you have the parts. And then the grocery store is this, and this guy, the grocer, is the guy that owns and runs the store. So those are our ERY words. And now why don't we pop over here and we'll do some ORY words. And we're going to go through these ones quickly. So here we go. And category is a group of things that have something in common. You have 4 categories for word study this week: ORY, ERY, ARY, and oddball. Different groups. You could categorize is the verb, shapes by how many sides they have, and so on. So those are categories. A directory is a book of organized phone numbers or addresses or emails. They used to be books, but more often these days a directory is a website, and you can go to that website and you can look up people's phone numbers or addresses or emails or things like that. So we have a school directory. It used to be a book, but now it's online. Lavatory, very simple. It's another name for a bathroom or a restroom. Again, simple. And then I'm going to hold off on inventory and dormitory because I have another link for those with more thorough descriptions. But let me do a couple oddballs very quickly. Century, hopefully if you've been studying history at all, you know this one. But if you don't, a century is 100 years. And your hint here is the word cent, because there's 100 cents in a dollar. And cent means 100. So actually centimeters is also connected here because a centimeter is a meter cut into 100 pieces. But anyways, century is 100 years. It's the one of the 2 oddballs this week because it has the U. And then finally, the other oddball is stationary. And it's an oddball because it's spelled ERY, but it's pronounced airy, like it was ARY. So that's why this one is an oddball. It's also a homophone. And this stationery is nice envelopes, paper, and other tools for writing letters. So like this over here, you have some stationery for writing letters. And we can compare that to, where is it, this other stationery, which means not moving. And there's a trick for remembering, because even a lot of adults wouldn't know the difference here. The trick is that this stationery is used for writing letters with this ER, and then the ER is also there. So that's how you can remember the difference between the 2 stationaries, because otherwise it's a bit of a tricky one. So that's it for this week, and you see we've got a lot of words here and a few images, and I'm going to wrap things up by giving you a link to 2 more words. So please look up what dormitory and inventory are over here, and I'll put some other word study vids here. So thank you for watching and sticking with this longer one, but I think these words will be useful for you going forward. Thank you, and goodbye.